Hey Luis, how's it going? Let's take a look at your work here. Overall, it feels like most of the work maybe went in this front part with the kids, so let's start there. We'll talk about like some of the phrasing and stuff and how it's progressing.
Dad? Dad loved superheroes. He believed in them.
Cool. So I'll just talk about this bit by bit.
Dad? 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 Dad?
This seems much better from last week. It seems like it's coming along great.
Dad?
There's still, I'm seeing some weird stuff with the, and so now I'm like honing in on more details because I feel like broad strokes and broad picture is working much better. One of the details I notice is that the way the clavicles are is they feel like they're kind of like, when they rotate, they feel like they grow away from the body and kind of go back towards the body. So if you have a scale or a translate ability, you know, in order to keep it kind of feeling like it's the same distance from here. So I'm seeing this as like the line between the torso and the collar, right? And we have this distance here. And then here we have this line between the torso and the collar. We have this distance here, right? So comparing those two distances, it feels much bigger, this one than the other. So, you know, if you can translate the shoulder to be more like where the purple is, I feel like it's going to feel like there's much stronger anatomy in there. So, yeah, I don't know. That would be one of my suggestions, but it's very detail based. The way the arm comes back in this little bit, the screen left arm here feels kind of late. And maybe it's a little, it feels like a little floaty or drifty in its spacing. So I like that it's offset from the body. I think that that is the way to go. But Dad, here, you know, like, I think it needs to start its journey backwards a little bit sooner and probably like land more like around here. I think this is a good target frame instead of kind of like continually drifting back for all these other frames. And then the screen right arm is kind of jumping a lot. And it feels like it's all upper arm and like there's not a lot of elbow stuff happening, and maybe there is elbow stuff happening. So what would I suggest for this? I feel like there was some comments made maybe outside of this class about twinning that has like really pushed you and Elisa away from like gesturing at the same time with the arms. But I think it's okay to gesture. In fact, I think it's preferable to gesture at the same time with the arms. It's just that you can avoid twinning by just slightly differing the starting or ending poses of that. But timing wise, I feel like both of these arms are kind of like doing their own thing. Like that arm goes and then the left arm goes. So I just feel like there needs to be more parity between them, so it feels like more of like a unified gesture and not like a 1-2 gesture. So I would sort of emulate whatever new timing you wind up with on the other arm on the screen right arm. That would be my suggestion there. So let's move on to the next bit of phrasing here. Let me turn on the sound.
He believed in them.
These are no.
Dad loved superheroes.
So I'll just stick with Dad loves superheroes.
Dad loved superheroes. Dad loved superheroes. Dad loved superheroes. Dad loved superheroes. Dad loved super.
Okay, cool. So all this is working well. I feel like this is a really strong phrase happening right here. Couple things maybe is like I'm feeling this bag bumping around back here a lot. It does this weird wiggle here like left and right. So whatever that move is, I would probably just cut that move out. And then the screen right arm does something kind of strange at the end of this, where it's like you could probably just live in this pose here with this arm. I'm going to say that's the pose to target, because then it does like some weird rotatey, squirrely, jittery things here, so maybe just clean that up. Looking at the performance here, I like it. I like how the head, I think you can probably, it feels like the head is still kind of coming forward at the same time as the torso comes forward, and I see what you're doing here is maybe countering back with the neck, when I feel like maybe you should lead with the head. And I hope I didn't say to not lead with the head in a previous thing, but I feel like here, if this is, the chest starts coming forward before the head does, and I kind of feel like an opposite thing would happen. So maybe we start to get the head rotating a little bit more forward here, and that's maybe when the chin could dip down as sort of like an anticipation to this move, right? Overall, I like this, the scale and size of the move. And I would probably like pull the head up a little bit more to offset it, because like from here to here, it feels kind of like locked in with the exact same move that the chest is doing. So it's just a way. And when I say pull the head up, all of this stuff also, the head and neck, the relationship between those two things move together. You know what I mean? I'll get into your lip sync after I'm done taking a look at the body stuff here. Yeah, cool. I'm going to move on to the next phrase here.
He believed in them. He believed in them. He believed in them.
Cool. I like the sharpness of this. I like the timing of this. I feel like all that's working really well. So the things I'm seeing, again, I feel like this hand is far too rotated that way, when more it would be kind of rotated out. So I feel like we'd be seeing more like the fingers more coming out this way than being in. It feels a little bit like a broken wrist to me. There's a point in this too where I'm seeing that like the eyes and pupils are like super buried, and as a rule of thumb, unless somebody's gone full psychotic, you don't want to cut off the iris of the eye with the lid. The lid can ride, it can ride that, but you don't want to cut it off. So to solve this problem, you know, you're gonna have to like nudge your eye direction down a little bit. You may have to watch out. I don't know if it's possible to like lift up this meaty part of the eye higher. Like it means you may have to adjust your brow up a bit higher so you can get the meaty part up higher, so that you can get the pupil and lid and all that stuff working in harmony, right? Like that's kind of, there's a puzzle. Like everything in animation is a puzzle. That's part of the puzzle, right? But to have the eyes be this buried is kind of distracting. Like this is a great eye line here. You're just going to have to solve it in this section here. And maybe that dictates that that's not the right place for your brows to come down. Let me listen to the audio to see.
He believed in them. He believed in them. He believed in them. He believed in them.
No, I like the timing of that. So maybe you need to just adjust the up higher here, so that the down doesn't have to go down as far, but you still kind of get that same like delta, or the same amount of change between the two, right? Without the kid looking like Chucky or something right there. You know, it looks like they're gonna kill the mom. character. All right, so let me get into the mom section. I feel like the body here is very similar.
If they were, these are not heroes. If they were, your father would still be here. These are not heroes. If they were, your father would still be here. These are not heroes. If they were, your father would still be here.
Maybe it is. Let me look at what was there last week.
These are not heroes. If they were, your father would still be here.
Ah, yeah. You did do a lot of work on there. I see it now.
These are not heroes. If they were, your father would still be here.
Yeah, cool. So let's take this phrase at a time.
These are not heroes.
This is a good one. I feel like now there's some daylight between the extremes, so I like that a lot.
These are not heroes. These are not heroes.
So with the new read, it feels a little more exasperated than it was before and a little less like forward punchy. You know what I mean? So it may suggest to us that maybe there's a slight modification to like some acting choices.
These are not heroes. These are not heroes. These are not heroes.
And I think maybe like the body still works.
These are not heroes.
But maybe it indicates to me when I listen to it and think about it, when she says these are not heroes, there's like something in the voice which is just, there's an exasperation, right? That I'm hearing it in the voice. So it may be a good opportunity to be like, these are not heroes, to almost like get in some kind of like look up or like, oh my gosh. It's not an eye roll, right? Because that's like really sarcastic, but it could be like, oh my gosh, like I'm so exasperated that I have to keep explaining this to people, and not just people, but like my child specifically, after everything that's happened, after everything I've told her that happened. It's crazy to me that I have to keep on explaining this to this kid. So it may...
These are not heroes. These are not heroes.
You know, it takes it kind of out of an angry place, which like the head shake and kind of like what I'm seeing in this character right now, like the body language feels kind of angry, and maybe we need to push like the exasperation of it a little bit more, and maybe that can be done just with like kind of like a looking up to the heavens, like, and it doesn't, you don't have to hold it for long, but if, I don't know, it's a suggestion. I'll leave it there, and then we can move forward on stuff. So as far as the body goes, you know, the arm goes from here and it zips down and then it comes up. So maybe we don't need this drop down. Either the arm should be down here at the beginning, or it should be here at the beginning. But the arm's doing a lot of, like, it goes up and then down again, and then it raises back up. There's a lot of busyness in that arm. So maybe we can simplify the screen right arm. And maybe we can also simplify the screen left arm that's holding the comic book, because it's also, all this stuff is kind of like waving around in a way that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I think we can just make that more simple. And then I think we can also break up what's happening between the cog here, which may be fine, and then what's happening with the torso, like maybe the torso needs a little bit of you know, drag, so the cog leads and the torso drags, and then we need to like loosen up the head and neck stuff too from the torso. So getting this all like a little looser, having like, so when she comes to a stop here, you can see like the cog, torso, neck, head all like kind of come to a stop together. So you want to build in just the tiniest bit of like drag on all of these things, so it feels like this is all a loose kind of like organic chain here that's working through the body, right? So you have the cog, or the pelvis or whatever, where the majority of the weight of the character is, that is going to be one of the things that leads or follows. It leads first or follows last, right? And then you're going to have this rib cage, which is going to be reactive. If the cog is leading, then this thing is going to be slightly delayed and following, right? And then you're going to have the neck head, which is kind of one piece that you want to think about as well. So you're either going to lead here, and this is going to be 1, 2, 3, and kind of like how it happens, right? So you want to lead with the head, the chest follows, and then the cog catches up so your character doesn't lose balance and fall over. Or you're going to want to lead with the cog, follow with the chest, and then the head gets there last, right? So like an extreme example of that would be, let's say, I'll do some stick figure theater here. You have this character, right? And they're going to cartoonishly step to the right. You know, you can have that happen by, you know, we anticipate it with this kind of thing. The foot like hits the ground first, and then, you know, maybe the cog goes over here first. The chest and head are delayed as they move over. I guess this foot would be bent or something like this. Overlapping drawings, so sloppy, you know. But then, like, once they put their weight fully on this foot, and this foot is like catching up to the new spot, you know, the head would be last to arrive there. That would be like if we're leading here with the cog, if this is number 1, right? The other kind of example of this would be to like lead with the head. Where the chest follows second. And then eventually it's almost like the character gets so off balance that they have to take that step so that they don't fall over. You know what I mean? To get to the new spot. That would be leading with the head, right? So you like try to think of that always when you're doing these kinds of moves. Like what's leading, what's following. Build in some offset from what the chest is doing here for what the neck and head is doing. Like the head and neck are going to have like a close relationship, and there can even be a little bit of lead and follow in that relationship, you know what I mean? But they're going to be much more closely related to what they're doing. But there should always be some offset from what the chest is doing, what the head and neck is doing. Okay, moving right along. Yeah, so I think the same notes apply here for like the chest, head, neck, cog relationship. The arms feel more settled down here, and I like them.
Father would still be here.
And I like the amount of movement that you have in here. It feels like sharp and contained, but it's still very punchy. It still really communicates. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, now I can talk about the eye mask and everything else that's going on across the piece. So let me back up.
Dad? Dad loved superheroes. He believed in them. Dad?
So here on Dad, for the eye mask, I would really try to open up the eye mask here. Like you're looking for places to give contrast, right? It's almost like, Dad, I can't believe this, right? But this feels like a good place to open up the brows, and that should also kind of like open up these lower lids and open up the upper part. Like it's almost like wide-eyed. Like, are you sure we're talking about the same person here? You know what I mean? So this would be a great place for you to like get the eye mask and eyes open, because
Dad? Dad loved
and even on loved,
Dad loved superheroes.
you could almost, it may be appropriate here too to kind of get into more like a pleading, like puppy dog kind of thing, to say like he loved them, like what are you talking about, instead of just being kind of in this angry, like this character can be upset and angry at the same time, you know what I mean? And I think you'll be able to communicate that through like the body motion, and but I feel like you're looking for places that contrast. So Dad up and open, still kind of like pleading here, like what are you talking about? How can you be so wrong? You know what I mean?
He believed in them.
And then he believed in them is when you can go into like the anger part, right? And I feel like that's going to give you like nice contrast in your phrasing of this and like places to go with your eye mask. Alright, so now I'm moving forward to look at the mom's eye mask.
These are not heroes.
These are not heroes.
These are not heroes.
So with the way her eye mask is now, it feels like maybe a little under animated, so we gotta look for places where we can open it and close it and all that.
These are not heroes.
You know what I mean? Like it could start here stern, but then when you go to like these, it could open up, you know? I don't know. I would have to like film myself doing it. But even on this heroes thing, it could be more of like a pleading thing than an angry thing. You know what I mean? Especially given the new read. It could be like, how can you say this? Like, this hurts me that you're calling them heroes, that you even call them superheroes. It means that you haven't like really heard everything I've tried to say to you on this topic or teach you.
These are not heroes.
But these are acting choices, which are fun to kind of figure out. Could warrant some new reference of you like listening to this line and this new read and going along with it to try to see how you would like to handle it.
If they were, your father was. If they were, your.
It's quite the transition from the first line to this line now, because it goes, these are not heroes in a calm way, and then it gets really angry and upset without a lot of justification for that kind of like attitude change. So if there is an opportunity maybe to re-record this second line, that may be something I would advise you to do, although it's a little like late in the game, but that first line just changed, so it might warrant a ramp up of kind of exasperation into anger. You know what I mean? Which we don't really get in this second line. It just goes from exasperation directly to anger without much of a transition.
If they were, your father would still be. If they were, your father would still be. If they were.
So I may need to start a little bit calmer.
If they were. Heroes. If they were, your father would still be heroes. If they were, your father would still be heroes. If they were.
Yeah, and I like what you're doing here on opening up. If they were, maybe I would open it up a little more, or see if you can actually get a shape change there, because even if you're lifting up the brow up and down, if it's always like in this shape, always kinds of read as angry. Instead, maybe you can get it more like it's being pulled up, like the arch, the central arch is being pulled up, so maybe you can get it a little bit more like this shape at times, you know. And then by the end of this, it tracks that she's in this kind of like angry pose, right? This feels correct to me in this part. Anyways, that's probably plenty to chew on between now and next week. But good progress, Luis. Like seeing this come along, and we'll get into maybe some of the more mouth shaped stuff soon. Like here, I'm seeing a lot of like gap between the cheek and the teeth there. So I feel like some of these designs, you know, we'll talk about that with more specificity in class. But anyways, look forward to seeing your progress and seeing class next week.